Example 13. The demand function for a particular product is given by d of x equals the square root of 0.25x squared minus 8x plus $110, where x is the number of units sold. What is the marginal revenue when 12 items are sold? So what they're asking me to find is R prime of 12. Marginal revenue is the instantaneous rate of change of revenue. In other words, how is revenue, that is the money we're bringing in, changing when we're selling at the level of 12 items? Now we have to be careful here. We're given a demand function and not the revenue function. And the demand function is really the price of the item, because if you think about it, demand for items is based on the price of the item. You know, how many people want to buy something is kind of based on how much it costs. So to find revenue, revenue is equal to price times quantity. That is, the amount of money you bring in is based on the price that you're charging times the number that you sell. So for us, our R of x is going to be the demand function, and I'm going to write that with a 1/2 power. So that's 0.25x squared minus 8x plus 110, and that is to the 1/2 power, times our quantity that's being sold, which in this case is x. Now, because of this power, we cannot distribute the x throughout that expression. So what we have here is a product rule. We have our first function is that demand function, and our second function is this quantity function. And I'm going to have to use a product rule because these two things are being multiplied. So remember, if R of x is the product of a first and a second function, then R prime of x is first times derivative of the second plus second times derivative of the first. And the hardest part of this is recognizing, first of all, that you have to multiply by x to get revenue, and that x can go in the front or back, it doesn't matter. And the second thing is that you've got to use a product rule because now we're multiplying. So I'm going to write my first function, 0.25 x squared minus 8x plus 110 to the 1/2. And then when I take the derivative of this, I have to use the chain rule. So my chain rule here, first of all, power times the base. That's 0.25 x squared minus 8x plus 110. Now I have to subtract 1, and 1/2 minus 1 is negative 1/2. So now I have a power that's negative 1/2. And I have to chain rule. So I've got to go in here and take the derivative of the internal part. So that's 0.5x subtract 8. So all of that is the derivative of that first function. Now the second one's much easier because the second one is x. So its derivative is just 1, right? Because there's a 1 coefficient in front of that x. Now I'm going to assemble. My R prime of x is the original first function, 0.25 x squared minus 8x plus 110 to the 1/2 times the derivative of the second, which is just a 1. Luckily, that's pretty easy. All right, and then that's going to be plus the second function, which is just an x, times the derivative of the first, and here's where it gets kind of long, is 1/2 times 0.25 x squared minus 8x plus 110 to the negative 1/2 and 0.5x minus 8. So that is my derivative, and yes, it's rather long. That's okay. All we're supposed to do now is plug in 12 for x. Now I'm going to convert back all of my 1/2s to square roots, and when I get over here to this one, I'm going to recognize that that means put the square root in the denominator. So here I have the square root, okay, that's my 1/2 power, of 0.25, and remember we're going to evaluate this at 12, times 12 squared minus 8 times 12 plus 110. Now I've done my 1/2 because that's what the square root is, and times 1 is just going to be that. Plus, I need to put a 12 in for the x, times 1/2. Now all of this is going to the denominator, so I'm going to put my square root in the denominator, 0.25, 12 squared minus 8 times 12 plus 110, and then all of that, don't forget this last part, 0.5 times 12 minus 8. So I'm going to do what's inside my parentheses first, okay? And look, you've got 12 squared, which is 144, okay? So 144 times 0.25, that's going to be 36. So it's going to be the square root of 36 minus 96 plus 110 plus, now I'm going to do this top part, 12 times 1/2 is a 6, and then 0.5 times 12 is 6 minus 8. 6 minus 8 is going to be a negative 2, and all of that is over the square root of, it's going to be the same as 36 minus 96 plus 110. Of course, you're going to need your calculator to do some of this. So I've got 36 minus 96 is negative 60 plus 110 is the square root of 50 minus 12 divided by the square root of 50. I'm going to get my calculator out here, and I'm going to switch over to approximately equal to, because I'm going to have to round these. Let's see, the square root of 50 is about 7.07, and I'm going to go 4 places and then round at the end. So 7.0711 minus, now I'm going to do 12 divided by the square root of 50 is 1.6971. I'm going to subtract those two. 7.0711 minus 1.6971 is approximately 5.374. So to two places, $5.37. That means when we sell 12 of these units, our revenue is going up by $5.37.